So I was having my hourly existential crisis when I was thinking to myself, oh right, the prison systems suck. So hi, I'm Noel Random from Utterly Random Entertainment, and today I'm going to be talking to you about some problems with the prison systems and why I think it should be changed.
Okay, so a little background knowledge. The US has a 5% people population around the world, and it has a 25% prison population around the world, which makes it the #1 spot for people in prison. Now, a lot of this has to do with money. Not all the time, but a lot of it has to do with money. Making money from prisons and people who can't afford to get out of prison. Now, let me explain for my first point here. Now, when it comes to prisons in other countries, they don't want people in prison. They want a nicer society, so they throw people in prison, they rehabilitate them, and they throw them out, hoping that they will be a better citizen. But in the U.S., that's not the case at all. They throw them into a box, into what prisoners occasionally call the criminal academy, because whenever you go in there, you learn more stuff than when you were sent in. And so you get sent out, and now that you have a criminal record, a lot of places immediately X-nay you out, especially for drug use. I think like a minimum for drug use is like 10 years sentence in prison for being a drug abuser, so a lot of harsh punishments on drug abusers. Now, for some of the higher crimes, yeah, we can all see that, but anyway, so prisoners, they get out of prison, and they have nowhere else to go, so in the end, they end up back in prison. Sometimes the guards are actually waiting for them to come back to prison, having them in the same cell, and stuff like that. What do we propose to fix this issue? Well, to fix this issue, I say we start trying to adopt other countries' methods of trying to rehabilitate. But I don't feel like that's what it's going to be like because of some of my next points. Okay, so we're all familiar with taxes, the drudge of life, two certain things in life is death and taxes, unless you're the Amish immortals. So, but we all know about taxes, but taxes isn't the big issue here. Well, not mainly. The main issue is fines for things you cannot control, and that is many times what happens to people in many rural areas. You see, what happens is, a cop comes to your house and he's like, hey, you have the wrong shutters. Wrong shutters? But I just made these shutters. Oh, yeah, and you have to paint your brick wall over here. But I don't want to paint this brick wall. I think it looks fine as is. And this is all to do a physical appealing to make the whole state look better, and if you don't look as good as the state wants you to look, then you get fined. Like in California, you need to make sure your grass is green. Well, as you can tell by the fires and stuff, it's not really a good chance. So people try to water their plants, because if they don't, they get a fine. But you want to use water? Well, too bad, sucker. You're either limited or you have to pay extra for that water. So there really is no win-win scenario. And besides the fact that there is stories of minorities being more targeted when it comes to stuff like pulling over on the side of the road. Hey, you were speeding, but that guy over there, he was going the exact same speed as me. Why are you pulling me over? And it basically comes to that. Minorities, African Americans and Hispanics, typically make up 52, I think last time I checked, 52% of the prison population, so go figure. But as much as this is a burden on the day-to-day life, it doesn't sting quite as much as my next point. Okay, now, imagine this. You're just a young boy, a young kid on your scooter, pedaling down the street. You're 14, you're just trying to be a kid, you're going for some little exercise, and then all of a sudden, a cop pulls you over. and he's like, hey, the scooter has been reported, stolen. And you're thinking to yourself, well, my parents bought this off of by my other relatives, so obviously I didn't steal it. I'm not in the wrong. But now this cop is breathing down my neck. So I call up my parents. They come on down and they try to explain the situation. But you see, the thing is, we don't got any papers. So because we don't got any papers, we can't really prove ourselves. So the cop does what any reasonable cop would do. He arrests us all and takes us to court. And what happens at court? Well, I take a less than 5-minute journey, and then I immediately get sent to prison for 3 months, which inevitably leads me down to 5-year road of prison. Now, you may say, no, this sounds like something you just pulled out of nowhere. But it's not. It's an actual story from a kid. The kid had a scooter. It was apparently reported stolen. Whether or not that story was true or not, still don't know. But the kid got sent to prison. But why? He was a 14-year-old kid. Well, that was all of the scandal of the Kids for Cash. The Kids for Cash scandal was in Pennsylvania. It was in a coal town. Sorry, I forgot the name. I'll put it here for you. But the coal town. This town was corrupted by 2 judges. Everybody knew they were corrupt. Everybody knew that something was wrong. But they couldn't do anything because it was a judge. And this judge could basically change the laws at any time. Now, this was over a decade ago, but it still makes you wonder. Because over 4,000 kids were sent to jail. And for what money? For $2 million. $1 million for each judge. That's right. Over 4,000 kids were sent to jail. Some of them died, committed suicide, were killed, and not a single one of them came out the same. And all for what? A couple $1 million. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot of money. That can help a lot of good. But for 4,000 kids, definitely isn't. And you're probably wondering, well, how did this whole scandal work? Well, all has to do with private prisons. You see, private prisons actually make a buck off of how many people they have in. They even have jail clerks. And in some states, they actually tax the people more if they do not meet that quota, which forces them to put more people in jail. So it wasn't just the judge's fault, but it was primarily them. But it was also the cops' fault for going through with this. Minor offenses. The judges actually bankrupt the juvenile detention center just so they could throw them in jail. Corrupt at its peak. But hey, that was in the past, and we can't really change the past. All we can really do is change the prison system now and hope that this doesn't happen again. And this is really only scratching the surface of what wrong that the prison systems do. There's also the fact that they use prisoners as labor in other places like McDonald's, are you really surprised? Subway and Victoria's Secret. It's really just a huge mess, really. And honestly, there is no fixing it quickly. It'd take decades, if not more, just to fix it now. Perhaps if there was some crazy reform, but people aren't really looking towards prison systems right now. Not that they really cared to in the past, but the main problem for prison systems is money. People try to use this for money, like they would with a car. And really, there's no help. So, without further ado, the prison system needs to be remade. I'm No Random, and thank you for watching.